Welcome back to Froggy French, where real stories meet genuine reactions. Today, we're diving into 5 absolutely wild situations that will make you question everything from family dynamics to friendship loyalty. From a restaurant manager witnessing an incredible transformation to someone accidentally becoming part of a stranger's family drama, these stories will keep you hooked from start to finish. Don't forget to subscribe for more captivating content, and let us know in the comments where you're listening from right now. I think the difficult customer at my restaurant is learning a hard lesson. I work as a manager at a family restaurant downtown, been there about 3 years now. We have this one customer, probably mid-40s, who comes in maybe twice a week, and honestly, he makes everyone's shift miserable. Let me call him Dave. Dave is the kind of guy who snaps his fingers at servers, complains his food is cold before even tasting it, and always finds something wrong with his order. Last month, he made one of our newer waitresses cry because she accidentally brought him regular fries instead of sweet potato fries. He demanded she pay for his entire meal out of her own pocket, which obviously we didn't make her do. But still. The weird part is Dave always comes alone and tips exactly 10%, like he calculated it to the penny. Our staff started drawing straws to see who had to serve his section on the days he usually showed up. So anyway, 3 weeks ago we hired this new girl, Sarah. She's maybe 19 or 20. Super sweet, really eager to do well, you know the type. Her first week she gets Dave's table and I'm watching from behind the bar, ready to intervene if needed. But here's where it gets interesting. Sarah walks up to his table and I hear her say, "Hi, Dad." My jaw literally dropped. Turns out Dave is her father, and she had no idea he came to our restaurant. And apparently he had no clue she worked here either. I watched Dave's face go completely white as Sarah started taking his order like nothing was wrong. She was being her usual cheerful self, but I could see the confusion in her eyes when she noticed how uncomfortable he looked. The next day, Sarah came to work looking upset. She told me she went home and asked her dad about his behavior at restaurants, and apparently he got really defensive and said she didn't understand how hard his job is and that service workers need to learn to do their jobs properly. But here's the thing. Over the past 2 weeks, I've noticed Dave's behavior changing. He still comes in twice a week, but now he says please and thank you to whoever serves him. He doesn't complain unless there's actually something wrong. Yesterday, he even left a 20% tip. Sarah mentioned to me that her dad has been asking her lots of questions about what it's like working in food service, how much servers make, stuff like that. She said he seems genuinely curious now instead of just dismissive. I don't know if I should say something to Sarah about how her dad used to act, or if I should just let this whole thing play out naturally. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think seeing his daughter in that position really opened his eyes. What do you think I should do here? Oh wow, this actually gave me chills reading it. There's something so powerful about seeing someone realize their behavior affects real people with real lives and feelings. I had a similar thing happen when my notoriously impatient mother started working retail at 60 and suddenly understood why customer service workers sometimes seem frazzled. I think you should definitely keep quiet about Dave's past behavior. It sounds like he's genuinely learning and growing from this experience. And Sarah doesn't need the burden of knowing her father was the restaurant's least favorite customer. Sometimes the best lessons happen naturally without anyone pointing them out. The fact that he's asking questions and changing his tipping habits shows he's really processing this. Let him have his redemption arc, you know? Well, let's hope the next story has an equally satisfying turn of events. I bought a used phone and accidentally became a witness to family drama. So this happened about 6 weeks ago, and I still don't know what to do about it. I bought a used iPhone from this guy on Facebook Marketplace. Seemed like a normal transaction. The phone was in good condition and the price was fair, around $200. When I got home and started setting it up, I realized the previous owner hadn't logged out of his iCloud account properly. I could see all his messages, emails, photos, everything. I know I should have contacted him right away to help him sign out remotely, but I'll be honest. I got curious and started reading. The guy's name is Mark. He's probably in his 30s based on the photos. At first, it was just normal stuff. Work emails, texts with friends about weekend plans, nothing too personal. But then I started seeing these really intense family group messages. Apparently, Mark's younger brother had been stealing money from their elderly father for months, maybe even years. We're talking about significant amounts here, like $15,000 that the brother had taken from their Dad's savings account. The family was planning an intervention, but they were trying to figure out how to approach it without completely destroying relationships. Mark seemed to be the one trying to keep everyone calm, while his sister wanted to call the police immediately. Then things got really complicated. I started seeing messages between Mark and someone named Jennifer, who I think is his brother's wife. She was thanking Mark for not involving the authorities yet and explaining that her husband has a serious gambling problem that he's been hiding from everyone. The most recent messages I saw were from 2 weeks ago, and it looks like they're planning some kind of family meeting where they're going to confront the brother together and try to get him into treatment. I know this sounds terrible, but I've been checking the messages every few days because I'm genuinely worried about how this is going to turn out. Jennifer seems really scared, and Mark is clearly stressed about the whole situation. The thing is, I have no idea how to contact Mark without admitting I've been reading all his personal messages. I could factory reset the phone, but then I'd lose the ability to help him sign out properly. Plus, I'm kind of invested in knowing these people are okay now. Maybe I'm being creepy, but I feel like I accidentally became part of their story, even though they have no idea I exist. I keep thinking about that poor father who probably has no clue his son has been taking his money. Should I find a way to contact Mark and admit what happened? This is such a weird ethical dilemma. On one hand, you're absolutely invading their privacy, but on the other hand, it was genuinely an accident that spiraled into something bigger. I think the right thing to do is contact Mark immediately and help him secure his accounts. Even if it means admitting you saw some personal stuff. You could just say you noticed the phone wasn't properly wiped and you wanted to help him log out without getting into specifics about what you read. The family drama isn't really your business, even though I totally understand why you got invested in the outcome. Sometimes real life is more compelling than any TV show, right? Hopefully our next story is a bit less morally complicated. My neighbor keeps stealing my packages, so I got creative with my revenge. I live in a duplex and share a front porch with my neighbor. Let me call him Rick. Rick is probably in his late 20s, works some kind of night shift job, and honestly seemed pretty normal when I first moved in 8 months ago. The package stealing started around 4 months ago. At first, I thought it was just bad luck, or maybe the delivery drivers were making mistakes. But then I started noticing a pattern. Packages would show up in the morning, and by the time I got home from work, they'd be gone. I tried talking to Rick about it casually, asking if he'd seen any suspicious activity or if his packages ever went missing. He was super helpful and concerned, even offered to keep an eye on my deliveries when he was home during the day. But then I caught him red-handed 2 weeks ago. I had called in sick to work and was home around 10 in the morning when I heard the delivery truck. I watched through my window as the driver left a package clearly labeled with my name and address. About an hour later, I saw Rick come outside, look around, and just take my package inside his place. I was furious, but I didn't want to confront him directly because, honestly, Rick is a pretty big guy, and I wasn't sure how he'd react. Plus, I didn't have any proof besides seeing it happen once, so I came up with what I thought was a clever plan. I started ordering weird stuff online and having it delivered to his address instead of mine, but with his name on the packages. Nothing expensive or harmful, just embarrassing things. First, I ordered him a bulk pack of adult diapers, then a book about overcoming nail-biting habits. Last week, I sent him a singing fish that plays that annoying song when you walk by it. I figured he'd realize someone was messing with him and maybe stop taking my actual packages. But instead, Rick started getting really paranoid and suspicious of everyone in the neighborhood. Yesterday, he knocked on my door asking if I'd noticed anyone suspicious hanging around because he thinks someone is pranking him. The worst part is my real packages are still disappearing. He took my new headphones just 2 days ago, but he seemed genuinely upset about the weird deliveries he's been getting. I'm starting to think my revenge plan backfired completely, and now I've just made the situation more complicated. Maybe I should have just reported him to the building management or the police from the beginning. My friend thinks I should keep escalating the prank packages until he gets the message. But I'm worried I'm just making everything worse. What should I do at this point? Okay, I have to admit I laughed at the singing fish part, but yeah, your plan definitely backfired in a spectacular way. The problem is, Rick clearly doesn't connect his own package stealing with the weird deliveries, so he's just confused and paranoid instead of learning a lesson. I think it's time to cut your losses and go the official route. Document everything you can remember, maybe set up a camera if possible, and report it to your landlord or local police. The prank war approach rarely works out the way we imagine it will in our heads. At least you tried to be creative about it, though. Let's see if the next situation has a clearer solution. I think my boyfriend has been writing letters to his ex behind my back. My boyfriend Jake and I have been together for almost 3 years now. We live together, and things have been pretty good overall. Or at least I thought they were until last month. I was looking for stamps in Jake's desk drawer. He told me I could check there when I needed to mail something, and I found this stack of letters. Not just 1 or 2, but like 15 or 20 letters tied together with a ribbon. I know I shouldn't have read them, but curiosity got the better of me. They were all addressed to his ex-girlfriend Emma, and they were dated going back almost 2 years. So basically our entire relationship, the letters weren't romantic exactly, but they were really personal and emotional. Jake was writing about his fears, his dreams, stuff he's never really shared with me in that depth. He wrote about feeling lost in his career, about missing his grandmother who died 5 years ago, about wondering if he's good enough for the people in his life. Here's the weird part though. The letters were all sealed and stamped, like he was planning to mail them, but they were still in his drawer. None of them had been sent as far as I could tell. I spent the next few weeks feeling completely confused and hurt. Why was he writing to Emma instead of talking to me about this stuff? Were they still in contact? Was he planning to leave me for her? Finally, last week, I couldn't take it anymore, and I confronted him about the letters. Jake looked mortified when I brought them up, but not in the way I expected. Turns out Jake has been seeing a therapist for about 2 years, ever since his grandmother died. The therapist suggested he write letters to different people in his life as a way to process his emotions and figure out what he really wants to say to them. Emma was his first serious relationship, and their breakup was really messy and hurtful for both of them. He never got closure or the chance to properly apologize for some things he did wrong. The therapist thought writing letters might help him work through those feelings without actually disrupting Emma's life or our relationship. Jake said he never planned to send the letters. They were just a therapeutic exercise. He chose Emma as the recipient because she represented this unresolved part of his past that was affecting his ability to be fully present in our relationship. When he explained it like that, it actually made sense. Jake has always been kind of closed off emotionally, and I've wished he would open up to me more. I guess I just never thought about the fact that maybe he needed to work through some old stuff before he could do that, but I still feel weird about it. Like, why couldn't he have written the letters to me, or to himself, or to no one in particular? Why did it have to be Emma specifically? Jake says he'll stop writing the letters if it makes me uncomfortable, but his therapist thinks they've been really helpful for his healing process. I don't want to interfere with his therapy, but I also can't shake this feeling that there's still something unresolved between him and Emma. Am I being unreasonable about this whole situation? This is actually really touching when you think about it. Jake found a healthy way to process old trauma and emotions without hurting anyone, and it sounds like it's genuinely helping him grow as a person. I think the fact that he never sent the letters shows he respects your relationship and Emma's boundaries. It makes sense that you feel weird about it, though. Nobody wants to feel like their partner is emotionally investing in an ex, even if it's just on paper. Maybe you could ask Jake to share some of what he's learning about himself through therapy, not the Emma stuff specifically, but just his general emotional growth. That might help you feel more included in his healing journey. This is definitely a more mature problem than I expected to encounter today. I found out why my best friend has been excluding me from group activities. My best friend Lisa and I have known each other since college, so about 8 years now. We've always been really close and done pretty much everything together. Or at least, I thought we did. About 3 months ago, I started noticing that other people in our friend group would mention plans or events that I hadn't heard about. Like someone would say, "Oh, that was so fun at mini golf last weekend," and I'd be sitting there thinking, wait, what mini golf? At first, I figured it was just occasional small hangouts that happened spontaneously, and I just wasn't around. But then it started happening more frequently, and I realized these weren't spur-of-the-moment things. People were planning activities in advance, and I wasn't being invited. The worst part was that Lisa seemed to be the one organizing most of these events. I started paying closer attention and noticed she'd sometimes change the subject when I walked up to conversations, or she'd get really vague when I asked about her weekend plans. I felt like I was going crazy and started wondering if I'd done something to offend everyone without realizing it. Maybe I'd been too negative lately, or too broke to participate in expensive activities, or just annoying in some way I couldn't see. Finally, 2 weeks ago, I decided to confront Lisa directly. I asked her straight up why I wasn't being included in group plans anymore, and if there was something I'd done wrong. Lisa got really uncomfortable and tried to brush it off at first, saying I was imagining things and that nothing had changed. But I pressed her on it, and eventually she admitted that yes, she had been organizing things without inviting me. The reason completely blindsided me, though. Apparently, our mutual friend David has had a crush on me for over a year, and it's been making group dynamics really awkward for everyone. Lisa said David gets weird and jealous whenever I talk to other guys in the group, and he's been asking people not to invite me to things where there might be other single men around. Lisa felt caught in the middle, because David is also a close friend, and she didn't want to hurt his feelings by telling him to get over it. She thought if she just gave him some space to move on naturally, the problem would resolve itself. But instead of moving on, David apparently convinced himself that if he could just get me alone or in smaller group settings, he'd have a better chance with me. So the exclusion actually made his obsession worse. Now I'm angry at David for being manipulative, angry at Lisa for going along with it instead of talking to me, and hurt that my entire friend group has been tiptoeing around this situation for months without anyone thinking to include me in the conversation. Lisa says she's sorry and that she realizes now she handled it completely wrong. She wants to talk to David and set some boundaries, but I'm not even sure I want to be around any of these people anymore. How do you come back from finding out your friends have been secretly managing your social life behind your back? Ugh, this is so frustrating to read. Your friends basically treated you like a problem to be managed instead of a person who deserved to know what was happening in her own social circle. David's behavior is creepy and manipulative. But honestly, Lisa's response was almost worse because you trusted her to have your back. I think Lisa owes you more than just an apology. She needs to have some serious conversations with David and make it clear that his behavior is unacceptable. And she needs to rebuild your trust by being completely transparent going forward. It's going to take time to feel comfortable in that friend group again, if you even want to. Some friendships don't survive this kind of betrayal, and that's okay too. Well, hopefully our next story ends on a slightly more optimistic note. Thanks for sticking with us through all 5 of these incredible stories. We'd love to hear your thoughts on which situation hit closest to home or surprised you the most in the comments below. Remember to check out the Google form in our description, where you can submit your own real-life experiences, and we'll share them anonymously in upcoming videos while protecting your privacy completely. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this content and want more authentic stories delivered regularly. Good evening, everyone, and we'll catch you in the next video.